Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is the Notre Dame football post-game show. Instant reaction. Notre Dame loses 27-24. This was the score the last time Notre Dame was in this stadium. They were on the other end of it, of course. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get into everything that we saw. We were talking before the show. I'm actually kind of like, I don't want to say encouraged. I'm not as, I don't feel as bad as I might have when it was 21-7. I mean, we were not in a good place at that point. I think I feel a lot better than I did then. But we're going to talk about everything. So thank you for everyone for being here. This is our first one of the year, and we are back with these. So if you like what you hear today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whatever it is, we are going live. Links to the podcast, as always, are in the description below. And as always, the show in an episode is brought to you by ESQ Clothing. You've seen it on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. ESQ is your go-to spot for the best handmade custom suits, sport coats, tuxedo shirts, and more. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka. Book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com. Mention ISD at your appointment. We have 10% off your entire purchase. And Ge Wang is having a Labor Day sale, kickoff sale, 20% off all online ready-to-wear items, including ESQ's award-winning bamboo dress shirts and their new luxury dress tee. Use code KICKOFF and get 20% off all online items through September 6th. So through September 6th, if you use the code KICKOFF, you get 20% off all online items on esqclothing.com. Jamie, as we get going right now, what is your main takeaway from this game?
I mean, ND really blew it like middle eight. They blew it in the middle eight. Like that was pretty obvious. But I don't think like I know I've seen like a lot of stuff of like ND got dominated in the line of scrimmage. They didn't really. Like that wasn't really what happened in the game. I think you get a view of it, and if you watch the telecast too, and you hear them sing, and obviously Francis Malaga, he's moving people off the ball, and you see like he's a stud. Miami didn't run the ball really well in the game. They were negative 0.25 EPA per play, 12th percentile. Like they averaged 3.1 yards per carry. Like
38 carries for 119 yards for them.
I mean, that isn't the thing. It's just because they held the ball longer and Andy gave them the ball. And so it made it look like they had the one drive where they kind of like really ran it on him. Every other drive, they kind of stopped them. Like it wasn't something that they did consistently, right? It wasn't like they had a bunch of efficient runs. So it wasn't really that part of it that kind of led to it. And whatever, like those guys, they get whipped at the end because it's like everyone knows you're going to pass. And you have to run long developing routes and whatever. Like, of course, like those guys are just going to tee off. Like it's the worst possible situation. But I mean, I think it's just one of those things where it's like there was just a lot of things that happened in the game that it really was like 2 or 3 plays where that could have changed just the whole outlook of the game. And I don't know, like I wasn't like, I know there was criticisms of Denbrock and whatever, and I have definitely some criticisms of Denbrock on the show too, but we'll kind of get into it about like the screen stuff, because that's not all on him, and that's not all on him. So I think there's going to be a fan reaction to it, but I think if you understand some of what was happening there, then you kind of maybe understand why some of those plays were called or those throws were made, and there was that pick there, right? So I don't know. I was weirdly like, I just kind of think like Notre Dame coming back in the game, obviously it is a thing. The margin for error, it is slim now the rest of the way. But the fact that they got to the way they lost the game, it's not Yeah, I mean, it's not something that they're going to be like, well, remember when that Miami game, they lost on the road in the opening game of the season? Like, that's not going to hurt them. But it's just the rest of the schedule where they got to kind of navigate it.
Yeah. CFB Hertz, thank you for the super chat. He says weakness in the trenches is not what I expected. At least Carr seems to be the real deal. So on that point, it's not so much that the lines got dominated per se. They were definitely not. I don't think either of them were the better unit on the field against their counterparts. So that to me is the story of this game, is that Notre Dame's defensive line, they got better in the second half. Like, Miami had the one drive, which is it's just unacceptable the way that drive. And we talked about, the lack of Xavier Watts and where that shows up. I think it showed up in a couple places, honestly, but there were a couple busts in this game. In the first third down of the second half drive, they threw the corner route and it's a bust. He is uncovered and no one knew who was supposed to be getting that tight end on the corner route. And that is something that just did not show up last year. And we did not see that. The other part of that too is Chris Ash and the zones that he's running. He ran a lot more zone, and you don't have busts in man like that usually. Right. And so I don't want to rip Chris Ash or anything like that, because there's a difference in the way that he called it versus Al Golden. And it's different for us, and we need to get used to it. By and large, I thought the game was called fine, right? There were a lot of 4-man rushes. The 2 times they got really good pressure was actually in 3-man rushes. Boubacar Traore comes on a 3-man rush and sacks Carson Beck on a great spin move. Then Bryce Young comes around and he gets really good pressure and forces an incompletion. That was in a 3-man rush, which is interesting. But we didn't see that aggressiveness. And that's something we were used to last year, and we didn't really see it. But it was just the fact that I thought Notre Dame's offensive line could not handle Miami's D-line, especially rushing the passer, especially in the end. And obviously, you've got Styles Prescott in there, and Anthony Knapp goes out injured. We're going to have to see what that is. But to me was the story of the game.
I think the thing with Knapp, sorry to interrupt, but
go ahead.
Because there were people who were like, did he get benched? I mean, they mentioned on the telecast, he was overheated in the game. They were trying to give him popsicles. They were trying to do things. He was overheating. So he might've been cramping up or his body was breaking down, but Molly McGrath mentioned it. And then the next series he didn't. And as soon as she mentioned it, I looked at Knapp and he looked dead. You could see his face, and Prescott played the rest of the game. So I don't believe it's serious. I believe it's just was the deal. But I mean, that's another thing, that not to say that Knapp, would have made all the difference if he was in the game or whatever. They scored a lot with Prescott was in the game. And I actually think Prescott, other than, him getting beat by Messidor in the one play at the end, did a pretty good job, for the most part when he was in there. But sorry, Greg, keep going on with what you're saying.
Oh no, that's just kind of where it is for me. I just thought, I just thought that the fact that Notre Dame lost on both lines, dominated or what, it doesn't matter to me. To me, that's semantics. It's not really important. They lost on both sides of the line, and that was kind of the difference to me. And that was the main story of why Notre Dame was trying to play catch up the entire game, basically. Once Miami, scored to make it 7-0. The other part of this too is, and why I'm not, I'm just kind of not in a terrible bad place with this team, is I felt like Notre Dame had to come out of this game feeling good about CJ Carr and their quarterback. And I think they kind of need to. There were a lot of things that he did in this game that are just kind of difference-making plays, difference-making kind of gamer attitude, just in big moments, right? Like the runs that he made, the fact that he scrambles around and finds Micah Gilbert for a touchdown, the fact that he runs in for a touchdown, he had some key scrambles, took some shots. He got hit really hard in this game. He kept coming. To be honest with you, I mean, I thought he kind of outplayed Carson Beck at moments. The funny thing,
in the second half, he definitely outplayed.
Outplayed Carson Beck in this game. And here's the thing: and we were talking about it before the show. This game, essentially, Notre Dame loses by 3 points. This game comes down to Carson Beck is getting hit. He floats a ball over the middle that I'm telling you, everyone is like, oh, Carson Beck. If that ball is intercepted like it should be by a Don Schuler, that is a terrible pass. It is a terrible decision.
It was a terrible pass
that he made. Pass. No, he should never do that. He will get a negative grade for that. The Don Schuler, I don't understand what he's thinking. I truly do not. And I think in the moment, he's just like, it's going to be too far. He threw it right to me, and he played it passive. And it is one of those things that happens sometimes. Carson Beck throws it right to him. The kid makes a one-handed catch in the rain. Okay.
It was an insanely great catch.
Insanely good. I think he can. We don't see the replay from the other side of the field, which good job by ESPN. Truly, you don't have a camera on the other side of the field. Good job by you on that. But I think he catches it personally.
He caught it.
I think
bobbled
he
catches to himself.
I think it hit off his arm and went up in the air. I think he catches it. That play is the difference in the game. That play is the difference in the game. The play that they made there and the play that Notre Dame did not make at that point. And then the other part of this game is Notre Dame throws a screen. The ball gets popped up in the air, and it's intercepted by Miami. They get points off of that. To me, that is the difference in this game. If you look at, and I'll bring it up here. If you look at total yardage, okay, total yards, Notre Dame 314, Miami 324. Yards per play, Notre Dame 5.4, Miami 4.7. Let's see. On third downs, Notre Dame 4 of 9, Miami 5 of 14. Right? Notre Dame runs 58 plays, Miami runs 69 plays. It was those moments where the breaks went for Miami in this one, and they did not go for Notre Dame. And that's the difference in the game. Like, it's truly the difference of why the game has ended up like it is. Notre Dame turns the ball over twice, Miami 0, right? Notre Dame goes on to lose the game. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Jamie, talk about, I know because we talked about the screen stuff earlier. There were a lot of screens in this game. Why do you we need to talk about why that was and why you kind of need to understand that this comes with playing a young quarterback like CJ Carr, because I think a lot of these are RPOs where he wants to get that ball out. He needs to give it the ball to Jeremiah Love.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's something that, Matt Bowen from ESPN, he pointed it out on Twitter about, like, it was an obvious read because the corner was playing press outside. Like, that was not you don't throw that. And if you look at inside, and you noted it on Twitter too, it was a run play. He pulled it to throw it. And most of those screens were the perimeter screens and Mike Denbrock calls those to make it easy for Carr, because those should be easy. They really should. Like, those should be easy calls, because those are like what we kind of talked about earlier this week, is like, those are pre-snap. That's not post-snap. Those are pre-snap. It's counting. It's numbers, right? And the thing is that that's when they talk about, like, Jeremiah Love's touches in this game. Well, he had a lot of other called runs that they didn't hand the ball off to him.
Yeah. Because
he pulled it and screened. And some of those were the right calls, but a lot of them, you don't get, I mean, that's what it's the offense. If he can't run that offense, that he's got to, that you can't play him. Like, it's just, I mean, he made a mistake, obviously, but it's just the thing. That's what's going to happen with some of the games. It's the overconfident thing of exactly what they talked about.
Yeah.
And it's just like when Carr, he threw away, he had the two, obviously, the two potential grounding plays. The one intentional grounding, obviously, like, I mean, what are you going to do? He was wrapped up, whatever. He's just trying to make a play at the end of the game. That's not his fault, whatever. Wagner got whooped. That was the play. But the other one where he, like, just threw it to the sidelines, like, that's just a play you can't make. You got to just try to, like, he was actually going to escape that rush, but he threw it away. And there's nothing wrong with throwing away, but you have to know that ball has to get to the line of scrimmage. That's everyone knows that, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
And that is something that just in the moment, whatever. But that's a mistake a young quarterback makes. And I think, I mean, overall, he didn't make too many of those mistakes. So that's good. You know, he made more plays than he made those mistakes. But, you know, in this kind of game, those mistakes are the kind of things that burn you, because that play, if you think about the other play too, it's not going to get talked about as much as the pick, but the play for him to throw it out of bounds there and then get the intentional grounding, it was 2nd and 21. They basically had to settle for a field goal instead of they could have went up and drive. And then at that point too, it might have like flipped the game, you know, if they would have scored there, right? And obviously you're not playing to get a tie later on there, you know, as well with the late touchdown. So there was just a whole bunch of things like that. If you think about like these kind of plays that just didn't happen for Notre Dame last year, like they just didn't make those mistakes. They won the turnover battle. There was not enough havoc on defense.
Yeah.
That's just a fact, right? Like that wasn't happening. And I do think some of that is 100% on Ash, because you have to, like, early on they were like early down run blitzing, and then they stopped. And I don't know why. Because it wasn't like they were getting gashed from it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure why. Maybe because I think it's because, obviously, I mean, it's not, I know what it was. They wanted to play more zone back there because they wanted to, you know, mess with Beck. But then the thing was Beck was just, he was getting the ball out so quickly and just making the decisions where credit to him, because he didn't really, he forced those ones where he was pressured, which we knew he was going to. But he never forces anything when he's not getting like a blitz or anything like that. So he'll be like, check it down. Yeah, I mean, which is funny because people were like, well, no one wants Kenny Minchie to win the job because he's checkdowns. But it's like, yeah, checkdowns, it's not a bad thing, right? And Carr was checking it down and having success too.
Yeah.
That's when he actually started really, and then all of a sudden it opens it up to throw it down the field later, right? So, and actually, I thought that was probably maybe the most encouraging thing from Carr, was like, he's not forcing it here. He was doing that. He bought time. He did a really good job with that.
Here's a super chat from Elliot Pierce. How much did Jagusa's absence impact the game? It's kind of a knowable, right? You don't know how he would have played. I mean, like Emil Wagner did not have a great game. You know, Anthony Knapp did not have a great game. Like Billy Strauss did not have a great game. So I don't know that we can't just project a great game onto Charles Jagusa for something like that. Obviously, I mean, they started Gerby Lambert and then they pulled him. So I think you could surmise that there would have been some better play at right guard, perhaps, but enough to switch the game and impact the game that way. I'm not sure that that's actually the case. Another super chat from Caleb Collins. Chris Ash running forward practically all game, like he has Bosa on the edge. Need to pressure more. So Marcus Freeman brought that up in the at halftime. He's basically like, we got to get pressure with 4. Sometimes we'll send 5, but we need to get pressure, and we need to do it with 4. Is that kind of what you're talking about there? The need for Notre Dame, if they're going to play the coverages that they want to play, that then they got to get pressure with 4 players.
Yeah, that's fine. But then you have to run some other kind of like zone pressures where you're like, where Boubacar's dropping to the flat every once, or something like that, where you're just doing something to change it up. Where, like, I could be wrong, but I don't believe like Devontae Smith or Hobbs, when they were in the game, at nickel blitz once.
No, right? Definitely not. 100% no.
There's so many moments in that game where I was like, and I don't want to get on Chris Ash too bad, because ultimately I think the defense like came up and played well most of it, but I don't think he did a good enough job in this game. Like, you got to bring something to change it up every once in a while. And where there's just so many moments too where you get like, okay, all of a sudden Leonard Moore's coming off the boundary here,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the one thing that Al Golden was just like so good at just timing and just knew it, right? Or like X Watts coming on a blitz, Schuler coming on. There was none of that. And that's the thing you don't get if you are playing that. And like, I think they could, like, yes, you give up, there are chances, you take risks when you do that. But there were so many of those like third and longs where they're getting beat in, like, they're playing man, but it wasn't like, it was just obvious man. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't anything exotic about
They're
it.
playing man without pressure.
Yeah.
To go with it.
Yeah. And I thought that was a mistake. I thought that was a huge mistake. And I thought definitely on that one drive to like the second quarter drive where they scored the touchdown, Daniels had the great catch. Like, why are they not running stunts on this drive if you're just going to let them walk down the thing? Like, they weren't doing that until basically they reached midfield. Like, and that was the thing where they were really actually having success is running those stunts too. So, I don't know. There was like a lot I actually thought there was a lot encouraging from the defensive line in the game overall. Like, I mean, obviously Boubacar's a freaking stud.
Yeah.
He's so good. And Botello too, for only playing and when he did, like Botello looked good, like rushing the passer. It is time that he was in there. Obviously KVA when he was rushing too, I thought he did a pretty solid job. Like Anye, I thought the first half didn't have a great first half, but he had a really good second half. He had a really, really good second half. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was a game too where I would say like Heinisch, he has to play in a certain, you have to move him. If you aren't moving him, then he can't be the starter, is how I view it. Then he only can be like a sub package guy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing where I had a problem. I'm like, you're not calling stuff to disrupt stuff to ever like get any plays. It's just like, well, this guy's got to beat his guy straight up to get a tackle for loss. It's like, you're not going to cause enough havoc like that. You don't have Dexter Lawrence to just absolutely blow anybody up. And frankly, too, Miami doesn't have. If you notice, like Miami's defensive tackles, they only did it when they did movement. Those guys weren't like blowing people up either. You saw Anye had a couple plays where he was like just grown man, a couple guys and made some big impacts in that way. But outside of that, but like Dawson is another guy. He's great movement. Like that's missing, and you got to get back to that. You have to get back to that, or else it's okay to give up 3-yard runs, but like when you put people behind the sticks, it just changes everything. It changes how they call the game, right? And even if it's like a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 8 isn't a great down for him, but it's like it's a big difference if it's like 3rd and 12. It is a big difference. So
only 2 tackles for loss in the game. You got the 1 sack from Boubacar, and then you had the 1 quarterback hurry from Bryce Young. I think there was another one from KVA. Those are kind of not the best stats on that. Another super chat from Caleb Collins. Rudolph's O-line needs to be changed up, needs size and mobility at tackle. Put Lambert out at tackle. Knapp needs to move inside. The only thing I'll say about this, Jamie, is this is the second time that they've made, like, they've kind of chosen the wrong person in camp at one of the guard spots. Last year they went with Pendleton, and he didn't have the greatest game, and he didn't have the greatest few games, and they replaced him with Rocco. They did it again with Lambert. He didn't have a great game, and so then they went with Absher. So that's just something, I don't love like that he needs to replace, like they need to play better. Just play better, man. Like you're maybe they, if we have a 4 or 5 game sample size of these guys aren't getting it done, then okay, then we could talk about that. I don't like watching one game against Miami on the road and being like, okay, they need to move Absher, or they need to move Knapp inside, and they need to move Lambert on the left. Like, I'm not a big fan of that stuff. Like, they got to play better, right? And hopefully they do. But I just can't get on board with, like, after one game being like, I don't know. PK Go Irish, you said in a super chat. I think you didn't put the comment in, so put your comment back in, and I'll try to get to it because you paid for a super chat. Another super chat from N. Maybe a head coaching problem. What do we think, guys? I think this is
an LSU guy.
LSU person.
I mean, you're paying $10.
You paid $10 to troll, dude. That's good stuff. So cool.
Congrats on winning week 1 for the first time in the Brian Kelly era. Like, come on, man. Hey, you know what? Seriously, it was a big win for them. Like, it was, I mean, pretty big win. They're the only one of those teams that, if you look at it, every single one of those other big road games, the road team lost. Bama lost, right? Yeah. ND lost, right? Like, that's what it was. Like, Texas lost, all of them. Yeah,
it is what it is. Talk about what did you think of Notre Dame's game plan offensively to start this game?
I didn't think it was bad to get out because, like, obviously right away, like, a lot of those screens at the beginning were called screens, right? Like, those were on purpose to get, get Carr comfortable. So I didn't think it was like a bad called opening script or anything like that. I thought once it took too long to settle into obviously the one drive where they had Price in and they were like gashing them there. There are too many plays where it's, and I understand the analytics of second and long, you're not supposed to run here. I think early in the game, especially, like, you have to run the ball because not only just to get CJ Carr, take a little bit of pressure off of him, but you got to lean on the other team because they're not going to get tired if you are just like, well, we're dropping back and throwing. Like, it takes more out of you when they're running the ball on you. And I didn't like that part of it. Like, I thought that it was a mistake. And some of those, obviously, yeah, like I said, we talked about, those are Carr pulls, but you could still, like, they were running counter later on. Like, they didn't run enough. There was more to the run game, or even just like didn't have any kind of like misdirection stuff in the game, in the run game or whatever. Like, why not? Like, I don't know why, like, you didn't see that kind of thing, right? Like, because I thought it was a good idea. Like, get Jordan Faison, get some Yak involved. Like, that was good, but why not use them in that way in like some kind of like misdirection, like some kind of reverse in there or something like that? Like, they never ran anything that really like even showed any of that. And I just think when you do that kind of stuff and when you're doing it, and especially when you're just running and you're just staying consistent with running, it just makes it easier to drop back and do that, because then guys like Bain and those guys can't tee off. Obviously at the end, they're going to tee off because it's just that time of the game. But any other time in the game, like, if you're running the ball, they can't do it. That's why you run those quarterback draws.
Yeah.
So they have to slow down.
I think Notre Dame, and this is one of the reasons I'm encouraged by this, is because I think we saw that CJ Carr was a player. He's a good player, and he's not scared, and he's ready to go. I think Mike Denbrock, and look, he didn't. You got all off season for this, man, and it's just really frustrating. I don't think he knew what he has. I don't think he understands what he has right now. And he needs to figure that out prior to Texas A&M. And the good news for Notre Dame is they get a good opponent next to kind of right the ship here, because I don't think they know what they are, and I don't think they know what they want to be. Someone brought it up in the chat. Look, there's reasons for this, right? And there's game flow and all this other stuff. CJ Carr is your leading rusher. He got sacked a couple times in that count, so technically he has 9 carries or whatever. But you just can't have that can't be correct. You know what I'm saying? And look, CJ Carr is what brought them back, and his arm is what brought them back. I think the reason that they had to come back is because they didn't have they didn't get enough out of their running game early. They didn't get enough out of their best player. And Mike Denbrock's got to figure out what they are on offense, and hopefully that gets figured out. All right, we'll bring the Godfather on the show, Mike Frankus.
The 2-back stuff sucked too. I didn't like any of that.
Stuff was not good.
Didn't like any of it.
It didn't seem like.
Well, you didn't do anything out of it. You know what I mean? You didn't do anything out of it. There was nothing that they did when they put it in there. And look, I look at a couple things in this that are concerning to me. First of all, I need to say CJ Carr played great for his first start. I mean, you can't expect. I know Yama's going to say, and I've been listening to you, and I think you're right that, it's an RPO and Carr should not throw that. But I defended Denbrock, in the NIU game because you have a senior quarterback, and he should know not to throw that in that game. But this is a true freshman. You don't give him the option. It's 2nd and 2. You're trying to move the ball.
Yeah, that's fair. Call a non-RPO.
Absolutely. Just run the ball. And then you're in a better situation. So I had a problem with that. But I think, when you look at all the screens and all that type of stuff that they were trying to do, it's obvious they don't have faith in the offensive line at this point. And we've been kind of saying that on the board, saying, hey, Joe Rudolph's mad. Marcus Freeman isn't very happy with the offensive line. And the way they called the game, I think pretty much shows that. Look, I think Mike Denbrock could have done a better job. There's no question about it. I don't think he knew how well CJ would play in this game. And I think based off of a lot of the things that happened in fall camp, they probably felt like, well, we don't want to give him an opportunity to give the ball away. But Greg's 100% right. I mean, you have Jeremiah Love, you have JD Price. You got to run the ball. You got to give it a shot because, those are your 2 best players on offense right now. They're the 2 guys who can make the most plays. And, so you can say whatever you want. I don't think that Notre Dame did the best job in game planning. I don't think that they did the best job. But, at the end of the day, I think you got beat up on both offense and defensive line. They didn't absolutely kill them, but I think all 3 of us thought that Notre Dame would have the advantage on both sides, and they did not. And
I think that they had to have an advantage at least on one of them. Yeah, it couldn't be both. Didn't. Yeah,
and they didn't. And I think defensively, as I've said, look, I think Chris Ash took everything that was great about the Notre Dame defense and took it out. And now you look like a team that doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And as I pointed out, when you guys rewatch it, I want you to take a look at. It seemed like a lot of guys were standing there kind of confused, I noticed Boubacar a number of times, like here's a guy who comes hard off the ball. But when you were watching him, he was kind of like slow off the ball. Once he got off the ball, he was effective, but he was slow on the snap. And I think you saw a lot of guys kind of motioning and doing all this type of stuff where they're not getting ready. They're not set for what is actually coming. And that's going to happen. But to me, defensively, they look like a team that is thinking, they're thinking and they're not playing. Notre Dame last year was a team that just, we're going, we're going to create havoc. We're going to create problems. And we talked about going into this game, Yama, that if you want to win this game, you have to affect Carson Beck. And I don't think that he was amazing, but Notre Dame, at one time when you're 12 of 12, throwing the football, I don't care if it's checkdowns or not. You're still moving the football and you're taking away the time. When you're 12 of 12,
to disrupt it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Whatever you're doing is not working, and you have to change that. So I hope Marcus Freeman is in a meeting with Chris Ash right now saying, we're not doing that again. We're not doing that again because that's not how we play defense.
And, I guess the confusing. Oh, sorry, Mike. I thought you were done.
Go ahead, Greg.
Oh, I was just going to say the confusing thing to me is like they're talking about we need to put pressure on Beck and affect him. But then the way that they played it, especially at the end of the first half, they made it so they weren't going to get pressure because they were giving up the short stuff, and he was just going to take it.
Yeah.
And they took it all the way down the field. And I understand we talked about like he tried to throw them the ball. I understand that part. But I don't love like counting on that. And to Mike's point, you are taking the best parts of someone like a Don Schuler. Like, again, like Jamie said it, how many times did we see him come in on a blitz last year and affect things? You know, and like they used KVA and a lot of blitz stuff or a lot of rush stuff, but it wasn't as a blitzer. It was just as a rusher. You know, like
Jalen Sneed is like a non-factor.
Yeah.
This is what he does. Like, you gotta like, and the one play that he was noticeable was he blitzed from depth. And I think it was a green dog, and he was just like, hell yeah, I'm going. And guess what? Carson Beck threw it in the dirt when he did it, right? Like, I don't know. I think there was that kind of thing, I think, was the ultimate. Like, you can look at it and say, like, the second half where, you know, it's fair to say, you know, they had those drives. Like, after it, they had, you know, three and outs in 4 series. And then they held them to the field goal after the pick. So, like, that's obviously great. Like, you know, great job there. But a lot of that had to do with, like, I think Miami doing a terrible job play calling, being like way too conservative.
Yeah.
Because I think they could have, like, there were so many things where I was like, I don't know why Miami doesn't run play action here. Like, they just really kind of didn't take advantage of it. Like, I thought, like, Dawson, for as well as he called the game in the first half, after that drive in the second half, like, I don't think he did a good job at all. Like, I really don't think that. And like, I thought that just Ash, there's just so many things. I'm like, you're not taking advantage of the personnel. And that's the thing. It's like, you got to take advantage of this. Is the best coaches, just you coach to the strengths of your team. And it's like how the one thing that, like, Marcus Freeman, you know, when he was defensive coordinator, his first year at Notre Dame, when he's defensive coordinator, they did not have the guys to play man coverage. Like, Clarence Lewis, he wasn't going to play man with Clarence Lewis all game long. So they had to adjust. And they adjusted, and they ended up playing pretty good defense that year, right? Like, they ended up playing, like, really good defense that year. But that's not how we wanted to play. And I think Ash wants to play this way. It's like, you can enhance it, but it's like, you got to build on that stuff later on. Like,
don't do it now.
Your base, you use your base and use that to win, because there's playmakers on the team. And I don't think that they took advantage of that. Like, I mean, you could say, like, obviously Schuler, you know, what the heck on that one play, but like, everything else, it wasn't like there was a lot of other opportunities, because they didn't force the issue to help those guys out, I thought, with how he called it.
Yeah. Let's go to some super chats here, because we got to get those in. I'm sorry, but Knapp is an absolute liability in pass pro. It's wild. Based on insider reports, never tried to compete at left tackle. I don't know. I don't have a problem with Knapp being the left tackle. He's got to play better. He just simply has to play better. Gordon Butler says, dumb question. Are we tipping our plays with Love's mouth guard? Anytime he didn't have it was a pass, as best I could tell. Did you notice that? Anyone notice that?
I noticed when he had it out, but then he also ran with it out as well too. So but I did notice it hanging down a lot. So I don't think it was every time. I just think they ran a lot of passes on those.
Yeah. I'm sure he got frustrated. I mean, how would you not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure he got frustrated, you know, and rightfully so. You know, you're a great back and you're not getting the football. And again, I just think it's one of those things where they clearly just don't have a lot of confidence in the O line right now. I think that's obvious, and we saw why at times. But I think when they when they had to move the ball and they had to do things, Carr did a great job. I think Denbrock was probably a little bit concerned about what he would do, but once he got going, you got to let the guy go, and probably took too long to kind of let him be CJ Carr. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Defensively, I think is my concern more than anything, because I think he can fix the offense. But to me, the thing that concerns me more is, look, is this your philosophy moving forward? Because if it is, I don't see how Notre Dame is going to be effective. Carson Beck, you play zone defense because you're worried about, a quarterback running all over you. That's not Carson Beck. He's not going to do that, But as I've said before, you can't be something unless you do it. So you're going to have to play zone defense if you're going to get better at it. So you need to do that, but not at the most important parts of the game. And so, I think they got to gamble more. You can't be the Notre Dame defense if you're not creating the havoc that they used to do, and unfortunately they had to do that. Blitzing corners, blitzing their nickel, blitzing their linebackers. That's what they had to do. That's who they were. Now, is Boubacar and Bryce Young going to be better? Yeah, they're going to get better, and you won't need it as much. But until you do, you gotta send those guys. You gotta create some problems. And I don't know. To me, that I'm most concerned about that, because this seemed to be like a philosophy that they're trying to go with, and I'm not sure that's a good thing. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even really have much more to add other than on the stuff that we've already kind of talked about. Like, I just think that, like,
I mean, do you guys think that he misread how good his ends would play in this game? I mean, I
don't even think it was that. I just think that he wants to call coverages where it's like he's got 7.
Yeah.
So that's what he wants, right? So I don't even think it's about like he thought his ends were going to do this or that or whatever. And actually, like, if you look at how many times like the ball was out like before like 2.5 seconds or whatever, right? Like, the ends did do a bad job of like rushing the passer. I think Boubacar definitely did a good job of it. So I don't even think it was that. And I thought Dawson actually rushed the passer pretty well too.
Yeah.
I think it's just what he wants to call. Like he's like, I want to call, this coverage, and it takes 7. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's fine, but it's wasting some of the other guys, I think, because it's just like, you have Maris Leofau on the team, and it's like, well, Maris Leofau's a friggin' battering ram. He needs to be used in a certain way to be an effective player, right? And it's the same for all these guys. Everyone's got their own strengths, and you have to highlight them. Yeah. And I think that it just like, I didn't feel like they highlighted that. I have to just mention, because I saw some weird things. I'm like, someone said like I was like making excuses for Denbrock, and then someone's like CJ Carr, like I was hating on CJ Carr. Like, you can't win when people like Notre Dame loses, because people are always just going to complain. But like, I mean, CJ Carr played a pretty darn good game. Like, I think if anything,
he played better than I thought he would.
That's probably like
better than they probably thought he would.
I think if you're going to say what was the biggest positive to take out of the offense, you'd say the overall play of CJ Carr was probably like the number one thing that you take out.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
You would criticize a million other things. That's probably number one. I mean, there are things that Carr didn't do well, which, were mistakes and critical mistakes, but his good far outweighed the bad.
Yeah. Let's get to another super chat from Gordon Butler. Says, I don't remember being cut up by checks downs last year at all. That's true. I don't remember that being the case. By the way, if you're like a opposing fan or whatever, and you're gonna send us a super chat, then thank you. I'm not going to read it. Like I have under no obligation to read it. So I thank you for your $2. I'm just going to overlook it because you're not going to spam the show with that stuff. Justin says, I'm super chatting to create a petition to ban the bubble screen from college football. I never want to see a sideways pass ever again. Thank you for that. So thank you, Justin. He wants to get rid of the bubble screen. So that's his contribution here. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. TikTok brain rot is mad at me. All right, do you guys want to talk about the nap thing? Should they have had a competition at left tackle?
Who would you put there? I mean, who would you put there? See, that's what I don't think people understand. They're like, "Well, put Gerby Lambert there." Did you watch Gerby Lambert play? Because if you did, you wouldn't want to watch. You wouldn't want him over on left tackle. I'm promising you. There's a reason Gerby Lambert got pulled. You know, he got pulled in the game. So he did some good things and he did some bad things. But you don't want him on the left tackle. I mean, everybody thinks that like you can just plug somebody in there and they're automatically going to get better. Anthony Knapp is playing left tackle because they just don't have anybody better. That's the reality. They just don't.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, is that like blame it on Charles Jigsaw. Like, because if he was there, if they were like, if he was really, because in that game, if Knapp was to go out, who would be the next guy in at left tackle? If like
it would have been Jigsaw for sure.
It would have been Jigsaw.
Sure.
100%.
So like that's what would have happened if he didn't break his arm, right? So it's one of those things. The first play that was a really weird play where he was like protecting inside. I don't know, like it must have been like a protection check or something. There has to be more to that story of why he didn't go out, because
that was a surprise. Yeah.
Because it's not like he's like, yeah, I'm just going to leave Reuben Bain coming up the field like that. There had to have been some kind of misprotection call that caused that play, because he didn't just get beat. Like that was like something happened there that forced it. But I actually didn't think that Knapp played bad when he was outside of that play, which obviously really stood out. But outside of that play, and then there was like Bain like bull rushed him one time, like right back into Carr. I didn't think it was like horrible for him, and also too, I don't know how much like he was like dying out there because of the heat and all that too, right? So I think give him a little bit of grace and see how he plays, like the rest of the way. But I mean, that is one of those things. Like that's a big deal when you're starting left tackles like out for like most of the second half.
Yeah.
I would say I thought Ashton, I want to rewatch, but I thought Ashton played pretty good because there's some pretty big dudes they had to go against in there, and I thought he played pretty well. I want to rewatch it, but I was encouraged by what I saw. So just wanted to point that out.
Another super chat from Matt Irish. Marcus gave Snead his chance. He was not good. He gets eaten up against the run. KVA needs to move up in the depth chart. I thought Snead played fine. I didn't think he was like a liability in any kind of way. The only thing is like, I did think and this is kind of like all the linebackers. It's not just Snead. I just didn't see them getting a ton of penetration. And I don't know if that's, again, to your point, Jamie, of them just kind of sitting back and waiting a lot more than they would have last year. I just felt like they were penetrating a ton last year, and this year they just weren't. Because look, we saw them all do it last year. It's not like, they've none of them have done this, right?
Notre Dame dictated on defense last year. Now they're just watching and reacting, and that's what I saw. I mean, that's just what I saw.
Yeah, anything from you? Yeah, anything from you, Jamie, on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing with. I don't, not that anyone, because I thought like, so Bowen, statistically, I think he had like 8 tackles or something like that. But he didn't have his best game, but I thought a part of it was because of how they were playing it, and then also too, because the defensive tackles, it was weird. Like I kind of thought like the rotation there too was I don't know. I wouldn't play Heinisch and Anye together. Is
No.
what I what after watching them
Amen.
today. Because
No,
I thought
totally.
actually not unsurprisingly, the best player in this game against the run from interior guys was Gabriel Rubio.
Gabe Rubio, yeah.
This was a game Gabriel Rubio should have played way more snaps, I thought.
Yeah.
Especially given the way that they were running the ball, like it wasn't working. Like it was kind of clear at the beginning. And look, I know that like they didn't run the ball. They didn't run for 250. Honestly, it was kind of like the only team that I thought ran the ball in Notre Dame this way was NIU last year, which is kind of weird. And the fact that they were just continually leaning on them. And I was like, they need to do something else. Like this is not working. Like you said, Gabe Rubio. I thought Gabe Rubio needs more snaps. I thought Jared Dawson needs more snaps. Like I thought he was providing good stuff for Notre Dame in there.
I thought he played well too.
Yeah, I just thought Heinisch did not. It wasn't a good night for him, which is unfortunate because again he's a captain, and this is part of it, right? Like it's hard to pull a captain out of the game. It just is, and it's if they're not performing, it's got to be, you guys just make that move, And these are things that Notre Dame has to figure out.
I saw them do it with Kaiser and stuff last year.
Yeah.
And maybe so that's something that I think maybe they just didn't have a good feel for it and stuff. And obviously too, like you can say you want to give Hobbs a chance because, he obviously earned that chance to play, but that wasn't a great series for him. When they scored that touchdown, and that is something when you think back on it, you're like, well, they didn't play last year. They just played Clark all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going to have to make these decisions because obviously like Tay Johnson at the end of the game was like in there. So now it's like probably because they were like, hey, if someone's going to make a play, it's going to be Tay. Like that's the way that you think about it. And
sometimes you just got to take your lumps. You know what I mean? You just got to. And I think, I don't think the safety play was, I thought Stroman played well. I thought he did some really good stuff in there. And he's a very good tackler. Thank God. Because I'm not sure anybody else is, in that regard. But, and you mentioned Rubio and Heinisch and all that. To me, I just think it's like this passive thing that it's just a frustrating thing to watch. And I don't think the linebackers are what they're good at. I don't think they're allowed to do in this. You know what I mean? Like Bowen's a very straight line. If I'm going to be effective, I need to be hard charging and hitting run gaps and shooting gaps as a pass rusher. That's where Bowen's effective. It's not sitting back and watching to see and then figuring out where he needs to be. And I'll say this, I think Mike Denbrock mentioned it when he got to Notre Dame, was saying you have to learn the roster. You have to learn what everybody's good at. And you've watched them in fall camp, but you haven't watched them in a real game. So now you're watching them in a real game and you're saying, okay, well, this guy's not really good at this and he's not good at this. We need to change some things. So hopefully Chris Ash looks at this and says, this did not work. We need to change some things. And I don't know. We'll see. We got
a super chat from Eric Barragon. Does Traore seem slow off the snap to you, Jamie?
I think
that's what I was mentioning. Yeah.
I think he's slow off the snap versus the run because he's not other than the one play where he crashed down, because that play he doesn't have to think, right? He's going and just like attacking down and makes that great play. But I think that's the one thing that isn't natural to him is, reading his keys fast. And that's why he played, and because they're running the ball a lot, that's why he's not like blowing it up the field there, because he's thinking about like, well, what if trap comes my way? What if this is and that? And that's why he's not like always explosive off the ball. It's not like a laziness. It's like a thinking thing. Because you notice like on third down, like he's quick off the ball. right? And it's got nothing to do because I saw somebody mention about, him being like in a 2-point stance. It's obviously that's not it either. Botello plays in 2-point stance as well, and that is not a thing with him versus the run. But it took a while for Botello to do that because before he would be like bull in a china shop off the ball, but he would get played out of position. And the thing is, Boubacar's like learning to play the position, and that's why. That's the one thing he's missing. He's a better pass rusher. He's better versus the pass than he is the run right now. So that's probably like the biggest thing.
I don't want to say, but I think the guy saw the same thing I did, where there were times as a pass rusher, he did not time it well. But again, I think it's communication. If you watch guys, they're always kind of talking and moving and signaling and these type of things. And, so I don't know. To me, that was, I don't know, first game, that kind of stuff happens, but it's got to get cleaned up, because if he's going to be the kind of guy that they need him to be, he needs to be very quick off the ball. Now, I will say he played great almost the entire game. There were just certain moments, and I don't think it's on him. I think they don't know what they're doing. It just seems like everybody's confused, I don't know, to me. But
yeah. Want to get to some post-game comments from both Marcus Freeman and CJ Carr on right guard. He said it was a planned rotation. So that was the deal. He's not framing it as a benching for Lambert, but that's what he said. CJ Carr said he did confirm on the interception on the screen pass, he should have given the ball to Jeremiah Love. It's been brought up by everybody here, by Mike specifically, that, don't put him in that position. It's one of those things. Like, to me, it's like, don't put him in that position, but like you're asking him to make reads on every pass play. Like, to me, it's the same kind of deal. He made the wrong read in that situation. You could just, if you want him to run it, call a run play without the RPO. You could do that with Jeremiah Love, especially on 2nd and 2. That's unfortunate, but wanted to. Oh, Anthony Knapp cramping is what it was. Jamie, I think you had mentioned the heat. Anthony Knapp cramped, so that's why he has come out of the game. Seems like he's going to be okay, at least for Texas A&M. Matt Irish with the super chat says, sucks to lose, but I actually feel better about our season long term than I did before the game. Most of these things you are discussing are fixable. Good time for a bye week, and in my mind, Notre Dame has a quarterback. Mike, do you agree with that sentiment? Notre Dame's got a quarterback. I mean, you mentioned kind of offhand CJ Carr played better than you thought he would. I was, to be honest, I was pretty worried about him going into this game. I thought he showed a lot of things, and I think that this is an opportunity for Mike Denbrock to build off of what CJ Carr showed in this game. Got to do more in the running game, but to kind of talk about what you saw from CJ Carr tonight.
The big thing is he didn't kill the team. The one play, obviously, that we talked about, the RPO, he should have given the ball. But again, I think that the coordinator, it's one thing to let Riley make that decision. It's something completely different for a first-time quarterback, especially at that time, right? You're trying to get things going, and you got momentum, and then you do that. And so that's why I didn't like the call at the time. Now,
the play also didn't have to end up in disaster too. It could have just could have made the block. That's a pretty extreme outcome for maybe you shouldn't throw it. It's going to get blown up. It doesn't have to pop up in the air and the defensive end intercepts it. That's a pretty extreme outcome for him on that. So it's not like
we'll call it a bounce.
It's not like he pulled it and threw into double coverage somewhere. It's unfortunate. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, Mike, but I did want to make
no.
Please.
No,
continue.
but to me, I just think that he showed me a whole lot today. A lot of guys, when things get tough, they kind of go in a shell and they start forcing things. And I just thought he played really, really well. Played completely in command, in control. Can tell he led the team. He was getting people fired up. He was doing what he needed to do, and so much of that is, do you have that in you? And you can tell he has that in him. He's a natural born leader. And then just the fact that, stuff happens, he bounces back. I thought he played really, really well. I thought he was way better than I thought he would be. I thought he'd force a couple balls and do some things. I don't think Denbrock let him do that too much. But when he had to deliver, he delivered. I thought he was really, really good. And, too many drops by Irish receivers. I thought the blocking, I don't think that Notre Dame's receivers blocked that well. I don't think Eli
Who dropped
Raridan
the
blocked
ball?
that well. What's that?
Who dropped the ball other than
Raridan
Eli?
dropped.
Eli,
Well,
other than
that's
Eli.
what I'm saying. Eli Raridan dropped the ball
Just
a couple
him, though,
times.
right? Wasn't I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah,
there was
yeah,
anybody else, right?
yeah. I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the blocking was that great. Again, I don't think O-line was that great. And to have the kid do as well as he did, considering all those things, and then you had no rushing attack for the most part. It's crazy because you look at the running game, and Greg pointed it out. It's not like they gashed Notre Dame, for big chunks and things like that. But what they did do is when they did run the ball, it was effective when they needed it to be. There were a number of times where they had to pick up 3 yards, and they got 3 yards. And I think Notre Dame just didn't do a very good job of running the football to take some of the pressure off Carr. And look, the funny thing is, we went into this saying we sure hope they don't have to put it in CJ Carr's hands. And they did. They had to, and he delivered. You know what I mean? He delivered at the end. It was in his hands, and then all of a sudden, the defense couldn't shut down the Miami, and so. But I thought when he was called upon, he did exactly what he needed to do, and that's encouraging. I feel really, really good about it. For the first time, I feel like Notre Dame's got a guy who has something as a quarterback and could really develop into something. Now, he's just it's one game. We'll see how it goes. And, obviously, I think back to, was it Shane Buechele, the guy from Texas, came out and just tore Notre Dame apart, and everybody thought, oh my God, this guy's going to be great. And then really was nobody after that. So guys have a good game. We need Carr to stack more, and I think he will, though. I do. I'm very encouraged by him. I really was.
Yeah. Frustrating night. If you need to burn off some frustration, you can do that with some pickleball. H2 Pickleball, in fact, founded by a Notre Dame alum, Todd Hill, is teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howells, a top 10 pickleball pro, to bring Notre Dame fans to Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership is free. Members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. The first event will be a tournament before the Purdue game with medal rounds played on campus. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Rockne Athletics Fund to support Notre Dame student athletes. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195 to join the league. Be sure to visit H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka. Let's get to another super chat here. Yeah.
Greg, put this Toby Rohrer up here, this quote. That great secondary got torched or whatever. This guy's been spamming the chat forever.
Oh, yeah,
I just want to say that.
I'm not going to put it. I'm just going to.
No, just get rid of it.
I'll just ban it.
Well, no, the reason I put it up there is what kind of a pathetic loser comes in here and does this? I mean, what is wrong with these people? Don't you have anything better to do? I mean, I never understood people who.
Oh, I see what he's saying.
He's talking about Malachi.
He's talking about Coney. Okay, that's fine.
But it's just one of these things that's like, I mean, really, don't you have anything better to do with your life than this? I apparently they don't. So whatever.
No, it's unfortunate. Let's get to the super chats here. Seat Pampson. How much man are they going to play against Marcel Reed? They're going to have to be in their lanes in 2 weeks. A running quarterback does present a little bit more problems with playing man. You got your backs turned, and that's a big concern. Justin says, real question now. Thank you for the super chat, Justin. All the offseason hype for Great House after Penn State and Ohio State and got one target. Am I missing something? Anything on this, James?
Yeah, 100%. This is a CJ Carr thing, and not a CJ Carr thing. Like I'm just, it's a young quarterback thing of like he doesn't want to throw picks, so he's not throwing it over the middle, so he's not working to the slot. If you look at like where all of like Raridan's targets were like outside in the flat, like all that kind of stuff, right? Like he wasn't working like down the seam anything. So he wasn't throwing those like,
Yeah.
and they didn't. And the first half too, like especially like, well, one, they weren't throwing. They threw the one ball to Fields, right? The
Yeah.
jump ball there. They didn't throw any other deep stuff. Like they didn't work any other like slot fades or anything like that. So him and Pauling got nothing really in the
Yeah.
game, right? Like
I'm curious how many snaps Pauling played. I didn't see him out there too much.
I mean, I think Greathouse was out there a lot more than him.
Yeah.
But and then obviously on the one third down, like it was a poor throw by Carr on the third down to Greathouse. The one time he got targeted.
Oh yeah, the out route. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although that was going to be short of the sticks too.
It wasn't set up like he maybe had a chance, but it was going to be tough.
Yeah.
It was going to be tough. But yeah, that's like kind of the thing for it. And I'm sure like that's something that I would just expect as the season goes along. Carr is going to feel more confident. And then also too, like Denbrock will call more to be like, we got to get, we got to take advantage of this. Right. Like, I think that's
I think you'll see a different offense for sure. That's coming. I think he was just concerned about what it was going to be. And then, you got guys going out and like, I'm sure Marcus Freeman's going to say, well, we didn't bench Gerby. This was planned. I'm not sure I believe that, but
Gerby did play on the last drive for
no, he did. He did.
So,
and I'm not saying
I don't know if that was a I don't know if that was a thing because it was like, well, he's better than pass pro or whatever. But I did notice that, so I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
Do you think
go ahead.
Do you think the lack of Greathouse was also kind of a product of, and the deep balls are just a product of like Notre Dame was afraid they couldn't block them?
Yeah,
they didn't have enough time.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah,
I think that was the thing.
Yeah. TikTok brain rot. Another super chat. Thank you, TikTok. Am I wrong that outside the pivot route, Schuler on the seam route, the secondary isn't a concern? They just got very little pressure. So the pivots, there were two on third down that TikTok is referring to here. They're like little like kind of returns, or like they go inside and they cut back out. Notre Dame got twice on that. It was Hobbs first and then Christian Gray. Notre Dame was unprepared for it, which it's like you do kind of got to be ready for these. I mean, it's kind of hard because you're thinking they're running mesh, and so you want to get over top of mesh and you want to get into the upfield shoulder on that, and they come back. I mean, it's a good design on the first one. You'd like Christian Gray to do a little bit better on it just because he's so experienced. But outside of that, and then the seam that Schuler, obviously doesn't make the play. Do you feel like, and I'll push this for both of you, do you feel like the secondary was an issue outside of those kind of two situations?
No, I don't think so. Like, I thought they actually no, there was the one you mentioned too, right, Greg? The third down to Lofton.
The corner route.
There was that, but I mean, it's one of those things too where you can pick out like a few plays here and there, and it's not like those plays too where like they converted on third down. I actually thought the footing was like an issue a little bit for Notre Dame. You could kind of see like Moore couldn't plant as well with his cleats. So like I think maybe that was something, but I think overall like they played pretty good. Like I don't think most of the stuff, and that's why you had to check it down a lot because there wasn't stuff open down the field. I also think that there's just a thing with Beck, which is why like he is not pressured very often in any game that he's played. Like it's not like a thing where he's never going to get like pressure that because that is his superpower is like processing quickly, get the ball out. Like that's what he wants to do. And sometimes that can be, a bad thing because he can, throw something that he shouldn't in those situations. But a lot of times it's like, if it's designed well, he's getting it out and he's getting it out on time. And very few quarterbacks are like that. They hold it on for that extra split second. That changes the pressure a lot. So I think that is, I bet if you look at like when I look back on it, because I was thinking about it during the game, I don't think they did that bad of a job actually like rushing the passer in this game, even with 4. I think it was more of like them getting the ball up. But like I said, I would have liked them to disrupt more because whenever they did, it just seemed like that was when Beck like made him
was bad.
Yeah, when he made a mistake.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I never understood the game plan. I that's been the MO for Carson Beck the entire time, right?
Yeah.
You pressure him and he makes bad decisions. And I get you want to rush with 4 and you want to develop that, and I totally understand that. But work on that against Boston College. Work on that against some of these other teams. Not when it's I don't know, frustrating, but it is what it is.
Yeah. John Safari, thank you for the super sticker. I don't know if there was a question associated with that, but we thank you for that. Matt Iris, thank you for the super chat. Says can't hit seam with no pocket. This is a good, interesting question from PK Go Irish on another super chat. What percentage of this loss is on coaching? Didn't use the talent. It's a good question. Just in terms of like, I think they could have played it different. Yeah. Especially defensively, I don't know on offense. Like, there's the thing about offense and play calls is like game flow matters a lot to how play calls get made on offense. So I'd have to go back and actually look at like that. I don't like this call or this, how they were trying to do this. But defensively, like that's your game plan. You're not there's not really a game flow issue defensively in the way you're calling.
You
things.
adjust.
You do, but it's like what you go into it with is that's usually what you're kind of doing there. I do feel like while it wasn't awful, I do feel like if they played it a different kind of way and they came into it a different kind of way, it might have made the difference in the game. I'll put it to you guys.
Agree totally. I agree.
What part? By what part though, Mike? Expand on that a little bit.
Well, I don't like the way they called defense. Because I just don't think that allowing Carson Beck to, a guy who's got a lot of experience, allowing him to sit back there and do the things that he did, while it wasn't like soul crushing, it still moved the sticks. It still put points up on the board. And I think you took, as I mentioned, you take what you do well on defense and you took it completely out of what they do. And I think that makes them a completely different thing. Offensively, personally, I wouldn't have thrown the ball as much as they did. Understand why they did. I know that they didn't have a lot of faith in their rushing attack. That seemed to be obvious. But I think when you got backs like this, you got to give them a chance, the other thing I don't like, and I've mentioned it before, if you're not going to be a heavy 12 personnel guy, why are you bringing all these people inside the hashes when you're trying to run in short yardage? I don't get that. You're not. These are not people who are used to blocking inside like that. I just don't understand that. There's too many bodies in a very short area that even if you get good push, the guy next to you is so close to you that there's no running lanes for these running backs. So I would have preferred to see him spread them out and try and run the ball a little bit more. But, look, Mike Denbrock's been doing this a long time. I think he knows what he has in the offense right now. I would have called it differently in certain spots, but I also understand when you look at the offense and the way the offensive line played, I kind of understand why he tried to do some of the things he did, but when you got Jeremiah Love and JD Price, you got to give them a chance. You have to. And, I think if you want to be a good offensive line, at some point you're going to have to play that way. You're going to have to call plays to give your offensive line a chance to make a difference in the game. And when they had to do it, they seemed to be able to do it. So thoughts, Jamie?
Yeah, well, I think about like what they did at USC last year where they spread them out more and ran the ball down their throats. I thought that was something they were going to do in the second half, actually. I mean, they
did
did
too.
it with like CJ Carr running
Yeah.
on that way.
More
but, like,
than the running back, yes.
but they should have done
And it was
a
effective.
lot of that. Yeah,
It was
and they should have
effective.
done a
CJ
lot more
Carr.
of that.
Yeah.
Hopefully Carr, I mean, he got hit pretty good on a couple of those. Hopefully,
Couple times, yes.
Hopefully, he doesn't take too many of those hits this year. That's not would be
honestly though, like that showed me something.
Oh,
that showed me
Me
something
too.
from a toughness
He's tough,
standpoint,
for
but
sure.
just like from a
definitely impressed
Said,
by
let's
it.
go, man.
also from a
Yeah.
physicality standpoint. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Like he was,
Yeah.
he was
Agree.
about it. But I mean, I'll say those were pretty big hits. Like they were,
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Leonard took some hits, but
yeah.
he's a little bit better at,
Yeah.
protecting himself a little bit better. And I was like, I appreciate the toughness, but
Yeah.
get down a little bit quicker. Because
No doubt.
I thought he almost got knocked out on one of those. I was like, whoa. Yeah, I mean,
Guys, I gotta run. I'm gonna get on the boards and police because I'm sure people are doing what they normally do after a loss. So, anyway, thanks for having me.
Yes,
See
sir.
you guys soon.
All right,
we'll see you on par. Jamie, here's a question or a comment, I guess, from TikTok. Brain rot. Offensively, the first series out of halftime with awful play calling, trying to use Love as a decoy again. Ultimately, 3 throws close to line of scrimmage. So I agree with this.
I 100% agree with it.
I did not like it. I thought it was a mistake. It's unfortunate because the first one is there to Raritan and Carr. It was like a bad pass. He just missed him. He didn't throw it because it was kind of there. The next one, you throw the ball again and the ball gets tipped. And then you try to throw a middle screen to Raritan. It's to me, it's one of those things where you look at it and maybe I could go back and be like, well, the screen's there and the throw to Raritan is there. You just got run at, man. You just got absolutely gashed. And it's like, you have to keep the ball and you go 3 and out with 3 incomplete passes. I put on Twitter, like, you're not even testing them. Like, you're not making them even play, like you got to make them play. And they didn't even do that on that drive. This is a good comment.
I thought, I mean, I'll give props to the ND defense after that too, because that could have been they could have folded after that. I personally, if I was playing on defense and I saw that from the offense after you just gave up a touchdown, like that would have infuriated me. That would have infuriated me if I was on that sideline. So I thought it was, I completely agree. It was not a good, series.
Yeah. Super chat from John Safari. Is Miami legit? And by that, is the ACC legit this year? I think the ACC might be real. They've got some very good teams at the top for sure. But what do you think of Miami?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, I always thought Miami was good. Like, I didn't think that, people were like thinking that Carson Beck sucked. I'm like, no, he's pretty good. Like, he's pretty good. Like, he's not perfect, but he's pretty good. And Miami's got dudes, and their dudes played like dudes. Like, that's a thing. Like, and then obviously too, like Malachi Tony is like a super talented kid. He's going to be a good player for them. Like, but I would say that, and they have good backs. They're going to have games too. I mean, believe me, people will watch this Miami team, and then Notre Dame's defense will get a lot more credit for like, oh, they only allowed like 4.7 yards per play to this Miami team, because they're going to light up a bunch of teams. I don't think the ACC, like as a conference as a whole, is legit, but I would say this might be the year where Miami, Florida State, and Clemson are all good, which hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that has never happened, because when Miami basically hasn't been good since they've been in the ACC, except for last year, and 2017 were like the only years that they were like really good. And then Florida State has just been so up and down. But I think Florida State, first of all, they got the right offensive coordinator for, that offense.
Yeah.
And they're going to be good. Like, they're going to be pretty good. And like, now all of a sudden, like if you look at, I wish like Clemson was playing Miami as well. They're not, but Clemson, Florida State, that's going to be like an interesting game.
Yeah.
Like you could say like Clemson, if you lose that game, I know that, they still have all these other games, but it's like, you got to win. They might have to win the ACC to get in, and where it wouldn't have been that other way, but you might actually get two pretty deserving teams from the ACC this year, I think.
Yeah. I think their offensive line is good. And I think their defensive line is going to be a problem for pretty much everyone. I don't know.
They're going to kill. This is the one thing about the ACC, and it's why Notre Dame has pretty much dominated the ACC. The line play is not good. It's not. It's like they might be located in the South, but it's not the SEC when it comes to line play, and that's like a big difference there.
Yeah.
And they're gonna bully teams in the ACC.
Yeah, I kind of wish this game was later in the year. Not so much because I think the outcome would be different. Maybe USC. Maybe Miami beats them the same. Maybe they win the game. But I think both teams are, because I think in some ways, much like Notre Dame, I think Miami doesn't really know what they are, especially offensively either. And I think they've got a lot to figure out. That's why it's kind of hard for me to like say, oh, Miami's this or that, because I think they have to figure things out the same way that Notre Dame does. Like if Notre Dame goes and beats Texas A&M next week in, any kind of way, really, because that's a good team. I think then you look at Miami a little bit different. But if Notre Dame loses to Texas A&M now, then it's like, well, I don't know if Miami's good or maybe just Notre Dame is just, too many things are different from last year, and so it's hard to say. I will say I was impressed with them. There was nothing about them that made me think like, oh, Notre Dame just fumbled it or whatever. Like Notre Dame just messed it up and they fumbled the bag, and that's on them. I think in some ways they did, but also like the kid made a great play, and like making great plays, like that's happened under Notre Dame before. Like I remember they lost to Georgia in 2017 because the kid made a one-handed catch against Julian Love in the corner of the end zone. Notre Dame loses by 2. But then that Georgia team ended up being really good. So it could be very much the same for Miami. Like making plays is part of football, and that's why that's why you win games sometimes, right? Notre Dame made those plays against Texas A&M last year, and that's why they won.
Jeremiah Love 90-yard touchdown and all that.
Yeah.
That's and I mean and if you think about it, that's the kind of thing that was missing from this game from Notre Dame. Like they got the one Malachi Fields. I mean, that was a great catch, by the way. And we would be talking about it a lot more if they won the game. But I think that there weren't enough of those plays. Specifically, I would say on defense, there wasn't enough of those plays, right? And that kind of goes back to what we've been saying. We don't need to reiterate it a million times, but yeah.
Michael Krause says I would put Joe Rudolph on the hot seat. Offensive line not physical enough. To this point, Jamie, to that point, what did you think of Notre Dame's the install of what their run game was?
I think that there just wasn't enough variety.
Well, like from a physicality standpoint, specifically.
Oh, physicality?
From what they were asking them to do is what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought actually go and watch the series. I implore everyone to go watch the series with the Price series.
Yeah.
And look at that. And look how they blocked on that series. This is the thing about offensive line. If you don't call runs, like consecutive runs to build on something, you can't get in a rhythm. You can't go and dominate people. That doesn't happen. It's not something where you can just be like, well, we ran 4 passes and then we called a run. Like you lean on teams, and that's how it works. Like that is part of why you run the football, which is, maybe it does come down to like, hey, we need to call more like specific running plays or whatever because of that. And I don't know, like I thought, because if you watch it, I was like, they're getting movement and moving people off the ball here, and they just kind of spread them out a little bit and did that, and then they never got into a rhythm again running the ball.
Yeah.
And the only other time where they did get into the one little bit of a rhythm was when Love had the called back on the Raritan hold, which, by the way, was not a hold. Like, I'm not complaining about I don't think the refs did a bad job overall in the game or anything like that. But why? Because a guy goes down. Trust me, I know as a defensive lineman, like there's a big difference between like a guy's got his hands inside and he kicks you because you're trying to fall down, or his hands were outside. His hands were inside. How does that get called? It just got called because the guy went down. Like, it I get it. You're the line judge and you're just making the call based off that, but it was a bad call.
Okay. L3 Got Knowledge says, haven't seen the earlier points, but if anyone here is tripping, just realize CJ Carr is going to be really good. Trust Marcus Freeman. If this game happens 3 weeks down the line, it's a 10-point win. What I would say is, again, to reiterate, and if you haven't been here, then that's cool. Thank you for being here. Hit the like, hit subscribe. I was very impressed with CJ Carr tonight. Very impressed with him. He made mistakes, and that's understandable, right?
Yeah,
First
totally
game, I get it, man. Like, look at Arch, okay? And then here's the other part. There were mistakes that CJ Carr made. They were not of the, like, I can't hit a guy in 5 yard out or a 5 yard crosser. Like, those weren't the mistakes. It was, I pulled it when I shouldn't have. I kind of freaked out when the sack was there. I took a couple intentional groundings, right? Like, stuff like that you completely understand. Okay, understandable. Not tripping on it. So that is my baseline for how CJ Carr played in this game. I'm very, very encouraged by the way that he played, and I do think Marcus Freeman made the right decision on this. And I didn't necessarily think that going into the game. So I think Marcus Freeman made the right call. That being said, Notre Dame does need to figure out what they are going to be offensively, because we cannot just assume that it is going to continue to get better and better. They need to figure out a plan. CJ Carr, they pieced it together in this game, but they didn't start the game very well, and they didn't start the game kind of knowing what they were going to do and how everything was going to work. That's got to improve. And that's not really a CJ Carr thing. It's like a coaching thing. But that's kind of my point about it. I don't want to do the thing where it's like, hey, he looked good in this game. He is a made player, and Notre Dame's good to go. We don't know that. They need to continue to figure out what's going on here. That's kind of my take on this.
I mean, I think everyone would say, Jason Z brought up Klubnik. First of all, I'm not a Cade Klubnik fan at all. I think he's, as soon as you play a decent defense, he is trash.
Yeah.
And there's no one who would have watched that game and watched, the Clemson game and been like, yeah, I want Cade Klubnik over CJ Carr. And Cade Klubnik's a senior, like, who started this is his third year starting. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, you feel pretty good about where Notre Dame is at going forward with quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, yeah, of course he had like even a couple throws, that I would say like, that wasn't like the most accurate throw or whatever, but like that isn't going to be like a regular thing for him. I don't think. Like, I think he's going to be better and better. The other thing is too, is like the fact that it never really became a thing with like it being like a wet, rainy day. Like, I thought he handled that pretty darn well too.
Yeah. I mean, I think both teams got pretty fortunate that it didn't become what it did, because earlier in the day it was raining very, very hard. I don't know if I want to. Blayberg says another well-known Notre Dame media guy at this moment is proclaiming Joe Rudolph should be fired because he coached in some rural town once. Listen, I don't know that that's true, and so I don't know the thing. All I'm saying is like Joe Rudolph is. I don't like calling for people's jobs. They literally just played for a national championship. We can't do this thing where after every loss. And someone asked the question. Was it a super chat? Maybe I wasn't. Someone asked a question, and I want to find it about where you kind of rank the loss in terms of like the Marcus Freeman loss. Here we go. Jason Z says rank this loss in Marcus Freeman history of losses in shock and or frustration factor. Like this one is pretty low. Considering
that's the bottom. Probably.
Yeah. Like in terms of most understandable, maybe. I mean, I think 2022 Ohio State was definitely probably not winning this game. Other than that, I just don't. They had a new quarterback. They went. It's very hard to go on the road. Period. I think the fact that they came back. I think the fact that they didn't pucker. I think the fact that they did make adjustments. You know, the players like they didn't fold. Like they came back and could have won the game. They had the bounces go against them. Like to me, this is like. It's just understandable. Someone's got to lose. It's unfortunate that Notre Dame did. And last year they won this game, but you lose games like this. And now, no, they do need to win next week, or not next week,
2 weeks.
2 weeks. They do need to win that game. I think to me now losing at home to Texas A&M when your season's kind of on the line after the bye, that to me is a very big game now, a very big game. But this one, it's not that I wave it away or whatever. I don't feel frustration about it. It's just that's not where I'm at with it.
No, not at all. I mean, I think you can be frustrated because, people want all these wins to be automatic, and you're hoping that it becomes that way. But I think really what it's about is it has to build towards something in the season, because who cares if you win this game and they lose in the first round of the CFP?
What happens if they win this game and lose to Texas A&M? It's the same. You're in the same space.
Thing.
Yeah.
So, and I think, it's like, it's college football. Teams lose on the road. And I think if you think about like, considering where they were down in the game, like I didn't feel very good about them coming back in the game. So the fact that they were able to, come back and do what they did and make it a tie ball game, like it's a pretty big deal. Like I think like Marcus Freeman talked about like you learn more from when you lose. It's like, well, they're going to learn a lot from this game. And it's what they applied. I actually think it's kind of perfect that they have an open week, actually, and then kind of adjust from there. I imagine they're going to be pretty, set when they get to play Texas A&M. Like I think they're going to be in a better spot when they get there. And certainly there's nothing in this game that made me think like, well, they can't make to the college football playoff, or they can't like beat these teams or whatever. Like, I think there's stuff that I'd like to see change, but you'd like that in any loss. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. A stubborn mix says if they lost 27-10, that would be a lot more concern. 100%. Like if it was 21-7 and they just got destroyed.
I also want to point out that Miami's kicker was not he was a horrible field goal kicker in his career. At Florida Atlantic, he was the kickoff guy. And yet he made like 2 clutch kicks in this game, like, which was unexpected.
Pipe too.
You know what, too? Whatever. I know it wasn't, but Burnett, that was it wasn't like a long kick.
No, that was it was solid.
It was
a lot of confidence
builder there. So good to see that from him.
Yeah. Jason Z says September Freeman's worth worst month record wise. He's not getting much scheduling favor. Yeah, I mean, it's, he's opening with tough games. Sometimes you're going to lose him. But yeah, if it had been, if it was 21-7 and then the wheels completely fell off. I mean, shoot, they went down 24-14. Things could have fallen apart. And they tied the game. They went the other way. John Safari says, I didn't think they'd come back and tie it, and they did. Thank you for the super chat. It's exactly right.
I gotta get going though, because I gotta write here.
Yes, sir.
I gotta do that.
Yes, sir. We wanted to go long because there was a lot going on in the chat. There were a lot of super chats, so we can end the show there. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow morning. It'll probably be 11 Eastern time. I'll probably go 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern time on the morning after recap. We'll get some more in the chat. We'll talk to everybody about what happened, and I'll get the post-game comments and everything. So thank you, everyone. Again, hit that like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. So we are going live. I'll be back in the morning to talk more about this game, and we'll talk some more about Texas A&M and everything. Notre Dame loses 27-24. Got to bounce back next week. Have a good night, everyone. We'll talk to you in the morning. Keep hitting and hustling.